How's it going, everybody? It's been a while since I've done a level design deep dive, so I figured I might try to refocus the channel to talk about levels and level design a bit more. So let's get right into it, and a heads up, this is kind of my attempt at a discussion video, so what's on screen may or may not match what I'm saying, but I'll give it my best shot. So let's dive right into the topic. 3-lane map design. What is it? The term 3 lanes in your mind might stem from the concept of MOBAs, and that is true. MOBAs do definitely run on a 3-lane map design, but that same concept can be applied to first-person and third-person shooter levels in a multiplayer setting. In fact, it's a very common level design trick that you may or may not have noticed while playing your favorite level layouts. But after this video, go back and play your favorite levels or find top-down images of your favorite levels, and you'll see the 3-lane design totally apparent right in front of your eyes. What is the core foundation of a 3-lane map design? Essentially, you have 2 spawns on either end of the level, and connecting them is a middle lane and 2 side lanes. That's it. But how they're crafted is what makes the strengths of a 3-lane design interesting to reshape that same concept over and over for different levels. But the question is, how and why does it work? And in my opinion, as a armchair perspective and my own experiences building levels, it comes down to 3 main points. So 3 and 3, ironic, right? But just hear me out. Those 3 points are learnability, memorability, and predictability. A very similar concept to the idea of introduce, practice, and master, which I talked about in a very old level design deep dive video on Sense Fortress. Link down below and one of those weird card thingies around here somewhere. That's good and all, it's dropping theoretical terms on your head, but what does that actually mean? Learnability means how easily can a player learn the level on their first try. Memorability is how well has a player memorized the level for subsequent playthroughs. And finally, predictability is saying how keen or well diverse the player is in predicting the level and knowing where to go to get what they want and to get the frags on other players before they get fragged. Basically that 6th sense of I spawn and I know what to do. So let's talk about that first step, learnability. How do you achieve that in a 3-lane map design? The easiest answer, the middle lane. The middle lane will be the ideal and easiest path to get players out of their spawn and into the gameplay space. If they like it or not, they're going to bump into other players because the middle lane is probably the most contentious part of a 3-lane map design. You're going to clash with players on the other side, but that's the simplicity of it. And bring the learning side of it is to get players right into the heat of combat. Like, you spawn, here you go. Go this way, things happen. You're learning the map. And a well-crafted middle lane of a multiplayer level layout should support 2 types of combat styles. You should have LRC, long-range combat, for players who like to hold back and take shots at other players coming into the middle lane, or for more aggressive players, elements of CQC, close quarters combat, to get up and personal and get those frags in the middle lane. Definitely, again, amplifying that learning aspect of how to play the middle lane of the level the player has just experienced for the first time. But the concept of this video is 3-lane map design. So you just can't have a middle lane. Here is where you need side lanes. Both the middle lane and the side lanes will help the learning phase of a 3-lane map. Each of these can be highlighted with level theming and landmarks, visual or gameplay changes to highlight the differences between the 3 lanes of the map, be it one side has a different lighting style, one side has more open spaces, negative spaces, just getting the players to understand the differences between where they are from spawn, the middle lane, and the side lanes. So as a caveat, you don't have to make the middle lane the core lane of a 3-lane map. There are some exceptions where the side lanes can be the core lane of a 3-lane map design, and I'll get to examples of those later in this video. But just understand the premise is that to help with learning a level, we need, not a level, but more so a 3-lane map level, you need a middle lane and 2 well-defined side lanes. What makes a well-defined side lane? Well, as I talked earlier, the middle lane can have 2 types of combat style, long range and close range. While a side lane can be focused just on close quarters combat, so players who go down that path know to expect up-close personal combat styles. Another side lane could be more open, as I mentioned earlier, with negative space and allowing for more long-range combat for players who prefer that more. Other tricks you can do is have different lighting styles, different themes, different level landmarks to really separate one lane from the middle lane to the next side lane. But I keep talking theory. You're probably like, dude, how does this actually work? So let's dive into some examples. And to keep things consistent, I'm going to be using Gears 5. So I've been playing that again, and this topic kind of popped in my head, playing Gears 5. Without further delay, let's jump into some examples so you can say, shut up and actually tell me what you're blabbering on about. So love it or hate it, gridlock in Gears, and in this example, Gears 5, and the top down, I don't know, it's from Gears something. I don't remember what picture I took. But the center lane is the center road. So when you just spawn and you take that curve, you're already in the center lane. You're already thrusted into the core of the level, and you can see people coming from the other side of this middle lane. Looking at Foundation, as soon as you come from spawn and go to the middle lane, it is landmarked by the inclined ramps that kind of dip down, and you can see other players coming towards you from their side of the level into the same middle lane that is inclined. Look at Icebound. So when you just spawn, you go towards the frozen ice sheets area. And a final example, Asylum. So when you just spawn, you go down the middle into that covered space, connecting the opposite ends of the level. So the concept is the same, a very well-defined middle lane to get players clashing in the middle. If you're a new player, you never played the map before, take in a sense, the path of least resistance. It'll probably have the most resistance, but it gets you into the space without having to overthink of where do I go to have fun. I don't know if you get blasted is getting fun, having the experience of fun, but you know what I mean. You get players engaged in the level from spawn and the easiest path down the middle lane. That is reinforcing that learnability aspect of a level. But the concept can be flipped. You don't have to have the middle lane be the core lane. If you take an example like canals, from spawn when you go down the staircase, technically you're fighting in a side lane, but that side lane is where you're going to have the most encounters, and the shallow river in the middle is the middle lane, and then you have the farther lane where you can have cross-distance sniper battles. But the point is, the side lane is actually the core lane, and the middle lane is not the core lane. But again, the presence of 3 lanes still exists. It's just the level designer's choice to guide players into a side lane first and then expand into the middle and secondary side lane from there. So on the subject of side lanes, if you go back to Foundation, if a player goes down the middle, there's a path on the left and the right which easily guide them to the side lanes of that map. If you look at Icebound, the side lanes, one of them goes to the right towards the buildings where you can have a mix of close quarters and long range combat, and the other side lane goes towards more the caves area, which is more close quarters combat heavy. But again, the concept keeps repeating itself, a middle lane with branching side lanes that allow players options from their spawn point. Again, this all helps with the learning phase or the learnability of the level. Let's jump to the next topic. We had learnability, now we're going to go to memorability. In a 3-lane map design, memorability comes from the concept of interconnected paths. Take a game mode like King of the Hill or Domination in Gears. The points can be evenly placed in each lane, and new players may just focus their efforts down one lane, for lack of a better term, top, middle, or lower. More experienced players may know how to get around the map faster by seeing the interconnected paths between the pseudo lanes to help give their team an advantage on a given objective. Not only can well-designed interconnected paths help with getting around the map, but can provide additional flank paths to catch other players off guard who may be holding down one lane of a 3-lane map. I touched on this example earlier, but again, in Foundation, when you go down the middle, you can see the left path that goes towards the little basement area, which is very close quarters combat, and then you have the path on the right that goes back towards the torque bow sniper spawn, which is more long-range combat, but you are given an option with a very clear interconnected path, but there are also many other interconnected paths on this level to get to the basement area, the middle, and the high ground where the long-range weapon is placed. And this is apparent on pretty much any Gears of War map that you play. So interconnected paths is only just one way to help build that memorization phase of a level, but item placements can be used as well to build on that memorization phase. Going back to Gridlock, the sniper rifle is placed on that little perch to the side of the main road, and you take the stairs, you go up there. So when you spawn, and you say, hey, I want the sniper rifle, you know how to get there because you're memorized. I have to go down the main lane, and then take a slight detour, go up the stairs, and it's there. So you memorized it. Take a map like Foundation. I want the torque bow from spawn. I'll take the side path, go all the way around to the back of one of the side lanes, and the torque bow, or in some matches, the sniper rifle is sitting there. So you memorized where it is, and you know how to get there as fast as possible. Which now leads to the third and final phase, is predictability. So you've learned the map, you memorize the map, you understand the flow of the 3 lanes and the presence of the middle, top, and bottom lanes, theoretically, and how they're connected. With enough time, you know how to predict how this works in your favor, hopefully. So using Asylum as an example from Spawn, you know that the left side on the raised bridge has a long-range weapon. If that's your jam, you want it, you know where to get it. You memorized it. But in most cases, you know someone else is gunning for that same weapon on the opposing team, and chances are they're going to take the same stairs up the bridge and face you in a head-on-head combat. You probably predicted it, you're ready for it, you got your Nasher, boom, you're going to go head-to-head on that bridge to get that long-range weapon. Or, in the back of your mind, you know someone's going to go to the same location on the raised bridge from their spawn, so instead of being headstrong about it, you're going to take the middle lane or the side lane around the train, hopefully kill a bunch of people on your way, go all the way around, take the stairs, and approach that same point from behind and flank any players who are holding that spot out of their hiding spot and get the long-range weapon you wanted, because you knew someone's going to be up there, so you just said, you know what, I'm going to use my prediction that someone's up there and go around, survive, and get what I want on my own terms instead of a head-to-head combat, which I also predicted could have happened. So just a hypothetical example, but hopefully the concept makes sense of how prediction works in a well-designed 3-lane map layout. So a well-designed 3-lane layout can build on the foundations of learnability, memorability, and predictability. But there are some flaws in this design that you need to keep an eye out for, but they can be mitigated with enough playtesting and player feedback and just awareness of these possible flaws. So let's dive into those pretty quickly. So the first flaw of a 3-lane map design kind of relates to the actual construction, where it can have too many interconnected paths, creating a Swiss cheese feeling. And I don't mean to dock on Call of Duty. I love Call of Duty as well, but there's some maps when you play, like every path goes to every possible place. That's a Swiss cheese feeling. And on the other end of the spectrum, you may have too much negative space and you don't know the boundaries of each lane, and everything just kind of blends together, like you're getting shot from pretty much anywhere. So how do you fix a Swiss cheese design? Well, think about your flank points and interconnected paths. You might have too many of them, and you might be able to say, I can select some and delete them and reinforce my efforts on 1 or 2 well-defined flank paths instead of 5 or 6 flank paths between my lanes. That's how you reduce your Swiss cheese problem. And the problem of too much open space, well, you might want to have more chunky landmarks to break up the lines of sight around the level. So people say, okay, this is blocking my line of sight, and I have to go around it to this lane and come back around to the middle lane and so on. So very easily fixed problems, but problems to keep in mind when building your 3-lane map design layout. And the next problem or flaw is the concept of spawn camping. And this was noticed in Gears of War 3. I think it was Thrashball and Trench. Both only had one exit for each team from the respective spawns to go out into a 3-lane map. So more pro players or better players were able to take advantage of it, push the map, and keep players in their spawn point, not letting them go out to any lane. They were just stuck in their spawn room. Later on, I think this was fixed, but the thing to keep in mind is having enough, not too many, but enough exits for players to leave their spawn and pick a path to the middle lane or the adjacent side lanes. So players have options from their spawn point. And when you play shipping maps, hopefully, and you keep an eye on it from your spawn point, see what options you're given. You'll realize that you're not just pinpointed to one way out of your spawn or your base area. You will see there's at least a guiding line to your left, center, and right to leave your spawn to go down a side lane, the middle lane, and the subsequent side lane. So if you made it this far, thank you. It's been a while. Just wanted to ramble about level design and the concept of 3-lane maps. So in summary, a 3-lane map design works very well. It's commonly used. It's simple. You just need a middle lane to get the player's attention, and the side lanes to offer varied paths around the space. Interconnect them logically, and bam, you have a fun layout in hand, and in quotations, hopefully a fan favorite. So having a well-designed 3-lane layout in hand, you are going to help the player learn the level, master level, and hopefully that same player one day becomes a legend that everyone looks up to as a top-tier pinnacle master of the levels a game has to offer. On that note, I hope you found this level design deep dive topic informative. If you have ideas you want to float by for future level design discussions, let me know down below. And until next time, cheers.